All right, 334, and I'm getting out the phone number. Of course, you don't need to call because I'm doing such a wonderful job of interviewing, but if you do, 333-13. I've never felt compelled to go to the phones. Long John never felt compelled to go to the phones. Hoerth doesn't feel compelled to go to the phones.
That's right. The only thing Long John had over you, Doug, are those corned beef sandwiches from the Carnegie Deli at 2:30
You were just going for the corn. You were just going for the corned beef and the pastrami. I know you. We have
cheesecake.
We have Dr. Howard B. Miller is with us from Fair Lawn, New Jersey. We have insurance agent Al Lotman is here. Sandy Teller, the great public relations man. Comedian Morty Gunty. Danny Crystal is with us. Were you ever on with Kai D, the Oriental fella?
No.
Kai D was a TV character actor. And he was actually one of the villains in Manchurian Candidate. But he used to be on with John all the time.
Really?
But you were on John. You were with John later. I discovered John when I was about 12 years old.
So what year would that have been, Doug?
Well, John started at WOR. You were never on OR. You were on WNBC, I think, and or WMCA with John.
But those two, yeah.
John started on WOR in 1955 with a half.
No, I wasn't on that.
No, I know you were.
Yeah.
But the history very briefly.
Yeah.
He had a half-hour show, which they did from this transmitter in Secaucus, New Jersey, which is in the wilds, but they did it from Secaucus because it was cheaper to close down the New York studios. And then John took over the all-night show in 57, 58, and that's when I picked up on him, when he was having flying saucer guys and guys that said they were Jesus Christ and so forth and so on. And then in 64... 64 is when he went to WNBC. Okay. That was in the Rockefeller building.
That's right.
That's
where
you
to
were.
Rockefeller Center.
And I first heard you. I want to say
it was around 67, 68.
Exactly. And for those who don't know, we talked about this before. Sir was a regular on John's show. I'm listening to this guy, never thinking that we'd be hanging out together so many years later. And they would be talking about this, and with no phone calls, just a bunch of guys sitting around this table. John would start the discussion.
6 hours.
John would start the discussion, and then 15 minutes later he'd leave and let the rest of the guys take over. John would be listening in another room, and if he thought of the show needed to be spiced up, he'd walk back in and say, "Well, now, Dr. Wecht, you are a learned, educated man. I never got out of the 7th grade, and I used to make my living as an auctioneer." Now, not Cyril because he's too sharp, but some other guy listening to this is saying, "Boy, this guy's a rube. I could knock this guy off with nothing." And then the next thing you know, John came out with the fangs and would destroy you. Oh, God. He was just the coolest guy. The nicest thing this guy is, well, Cyril's done many nice things for me down through the years, but when you wrote in one of your books that I reminded you of John, that made my day. Anyway, let's just finish off on this Ramsey thing.
Okay.
Inside job, mother and father still prime suspects.
Yeah. Look, on Carr, a metaphor I've come up with. He launched a great ship called Confession. And then, as he continued to talk, one torpedo after another was fired that blew holes into the ship as it was traversing the ocean, and amazingly, a lot of people still stayed on board. He sunk his own ship called Confession. Look, he says he picked her up from school. It was Christmas Day. He says that he planned the kidnapping, but he didn't write the note before and did not bring pen and paper with him. He says that he drugged her. There were no drugs. He says that he raped her, had sexual intercourse. There wasn't. He says that he accidentally killed her. As an 8.5-inch fracture on the top of the skull with indentation of the calvarium of the top of the bony skull. That's not an accidental blow of any kind. I've explained why I think and how it happened, but there's no way that it could be an accident. All right? So he himself, and the more he talked about things, and then he was also under her bed, and he was there 3 days before with his brother at a party, and that's how he knew the house. If you just listen to those stories, and then when you saw him, and then you heard him speak, and then you read what he had written to Jean Benet, "I love you, I've always loved you, I always will love you," and to the mother, "Dear Patricia," I doubt that anybody ever called her Patricia after the first day she was born. She was Patsy to her mother, sister, husband, everybody else. So people wanted for different reasons, to reach out and grasp him and hold him, clutch him to their bosom as this interloper, this person who did all these things. Going back before December 25, 1996, he's in Georgia. Except for family, friends, relatives, neighbors, and a small group of people involved in these beauty pageants with little girls, how would they have even known about John Bonet? Then how does he get to Boulder? How does he get into the house? How does he accomplish all of these things without leaving any physical, biological trace evidence of himself? How does he know about the room in the basement, which the cops didn't even see? They were there 6 o'clock in the morning. They don't even see and go into this room. But Mr. Carr, he knew about it.
All right. But still an inside job. It was...
Absolutely.
Sex game, so forth.
Yes,
You stand by your original.
Chronic inflammation of the vaginal wall seen under the microscope. That means 72 hours or older. Focal erosion of the vaginal mucosa at the 7 o'clock position. Picture yourself lying on the table. Gynecological exam. Right-handed examiner. Finger goes in for digital insertion. 7 o'clock position. You get the picture?
I gotcha.
Absence of much of the hymen. 6-year-old girl. Not a gymnast, a bike rider, or a horseback rider. Much of the hymen is gone at the age of 6. And under the microscope, polarized light, a blue prism, we see birefringent materials, the most ubiquitous source of which in your household and mine is talcum powder. Do you get a picture here now? And there was no penile per vagina entry rape here.
Right.
There were no lacerations or tears of the vaginal vault. And this whole business, he then says he had oral sex and he drank her blood.
Oh, it's all nonsense.
No, I mean, it just
so
just
inside job, sex game of some kind gone wrong.
The rope around the neck led to a vagal reflex. The vagus nerve comes out of the brain, one on the right side, one on the left side, down along the neck, enters the chest cavity, sends fibers to the heart and lungs, controls cardiac and respiratory activity. When you apply pressure to the neck, sometimes that'll lead to a slowing of the heart, which leads to a cardiac arrhythmia, which may lead to cardiac arrest and standstill. That's what happened. The blow to the head was inflicted then when she was already dead or dying to make it appear that it was the work of a brutal intruder. She had 1.5 teaspoonful of blood in her cranial vault. If you smash somebody on the top of the head with a beating heart, you're going to have a heck of a lot more blood than 7 cc's.
I want to do 180. We were I don't want to spend a lot of time on this either,
but
okay, going back to Hauptmann, all right? I read The Airman and the Carpenter. The author's name escapes. He was married to Deanna Durbin, though, if you remember Deanna. Oh, what a beauty she was, okay?
Durbin, very well.
I read a couple books on the subject, and I don't know if you've ever read anything on it or not.
On Bruno Hauptmann?
Yeah.
I've read something.
There's a side of me that says he was as guilty as hell, but boy, a lot of people from the government of New Jersey on down did not think so. They offered him, what do you call it? We're not going to kill you if you just confess. He never did it. That is a case that I demand some kind of investigation so many years afterward. Really
absolutely. And many people have a somewhat similar case that was written about and pursued by former Pennsylvania Supreme Court Justice Michael Masmano with Sacco Vanzetti.
Right.
Whether they got these two Italian immigrants and railroaded them and so on. There's been a lot of evidence to suggest that that's what happened.
Something we talked about last week, and it is amazing how many people had the same sense of deja vu about this character. First of all,
as he walked in, huh?
Yeah, there were people who said he looked like Oswald. I didn't see the resemblance per se, but boy, when he walked in with those cameras. And I'm watching, and I brought it up on the radio the next day, and my God, 9 million people called and said, Doug, I'm waiting for somebody to put out a microphone and say, did you shoot the president?
Yes.
No, sir, I have not been charged with that. I would like legal... honest to God,
unbelievable.
The sense of deja vu in that was just incredible.
Oh, by the way, Doug, because you always ask me about movies, too, I got to tell you,